Oh, what's up, guys? I got a little impatient, so today you get 1 extra minute. How lucky do you feel? Crazy, huh? It's 6:59. Today I want to chat to you about the future of Aussie English, the future of the Aussie English classroom. Also have it as a bit of an Ask Me Anything lesson, guys, where you guys can ask any questions you want. You can ask me anything about me, about English, anything you want. I'm under the weather currently. I'm sick. I am unwell. So I've decided that I'm not going to be filming a phrasal verb episode today because I do not want the video permanently with me sick up in the corner for the course. So we'll be taking that up again on Monday. But yeah, I thought that I would get on here anyway. I could lie in bed and feel sorry for myself, but I wanted to come and hang out with you guys. So how are you going? G'day Rocio. G'day Reno, how are you, mate? What are you guys up to this week? How have you been? I hope you haven't been sick like me. So I thought we could talk a little bit about sickness and sickness vocab. I'd been putting a bit of that up on Instagram recently. So do you guys know of any ways to say that you feel sick? Do you know of any expressions for how to say that you feel sick? Under the weather is an incredibly popular one. I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so I might not pop into work. Last week I was under the weather, so you can be under the weather, you can feel under the weather. That is just really common. You'll hear that everywhere in the English-speaking world. America, Canada, Britain, South Africa, I'm sure, New Zealand, Australia. They will all use under the weather. Rocio's come up with another one, that you're crook. That is, I think that is an Australian slang term only. So I definitely use that from time to time. If I'm feeling a little under the weather, I'm feeling sick, I'll say I'm feeling a bit crook. So a little bit crook, just a small amount. Maybe I'm really crook. Oh man, I can't come into work. I'm wrecked, I'm crook. I've got the flu, I've got a cold. Feeling really crook, so I can't come into work. But what about you guys? There's a few of you watching. Can you think of any other expressions, any other ways of saying that you feel sick? It doesn't have to be an idiom per se. It could be just another way of describing feeling sick. So if you were at home, under the weather, feeling crook, what is another way of saying that of describing how you feel? Huh? Or, that you've got a cold, you've got a flu. Maybe I'll give you some other ones. You could say, sick as a dog. I'm feeling as sick as a dog. I don't know why we say dog as in ruff ruff, a dog, but we often use that. I guess that's an idiom, to be as sick as a dog, to be incredibly sick, really, really sick. What else could we say? We could say, yeah, Jesse said there, I'm really unwell. You could be ill, really ill. Can you guys think of any other ways of saying that you feel sick, you feel unwell, you feel under the weather, you feel as sick as a dog? You can also be dog tired. If you're incredibly tired, you can say that you feel dog tired. So that's one of those compound adjectives where you've taken two words, and I think there'd be a hyphen between those two, joining it together as one adjective. I'm feeling dog tired today. I'm not sure why these poor dogs get used in all of these idioms. So dog tired, to feel as sick as a dog, to be unwell. As I mentioned at the start, guys, normally I'm doing phrasal verb episodes on Thursdays and Mondays, but because I'm unwell, because I'm sick, it's totally open for you guys to ask me anything you like about English. I thought we could have a chat. Rocio, what have you said here? I think if you go to the doctors, they would say you're unfit for work or unfit for school. That's it. You could use that. You can also use fit and unfit to mean sort of like, doesn't have to be sick, it just means that you can't carry out your purpose. So you could be unfit to be a parent, meaning that you don't make enough money, or maybe you're a criminal, or for whatever reason, there are a number of reasons, or there's one really big reason, you're not okay to be a parent. you're not fit to be a parent, or you are unfit to be a parent. So yeah, you can use it like that, but yeah, you could say I'm unfit for work, I'm not fit for work. And notice how we say fit and unfit. It's instead of saying not fit, we use the prefix unfit. So well, unwell, you'll see it there as well. That comes up quite a bit in English. KC said you've got a temperature. Exactly, you could say you have a temperature. My mother used to walk up if I said I was sick, and she would feel my forehead here. She might put a thermometer in my mouth to check my temperature, but if she felt my forehead and felt that it was really hot, she would say, oh, it feels like you've got a temperature. Maybe you're sick, maybe you're crook, maybe you're unwell, maybe you are under the weather. How are you going, Ruchi? Yeah, any other questions, guys? How have you been? What have you been up to this week? You know, let's just have a chat today. This isn't going to be a serious lesson. I would love to engage more with you. If you have any kinds of questions, feel free to ask. I'm all ears, all eyes. As I said earlier, I'm a bit crook, so that's why we're not doing the standard phrasal verb one. Leonardo, how are you? My pleasure, mate. He says, thank you for all the tips. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. What have you been struggling with recently in English? I'm always asking you guys this on the page, and I love hearing these answers because it gives me information about what I need to be trying to focus more on teaching. So are you struggling with phrasal verbs, as I hope you are, because that's what I'm trying to help you with at the moment? Are you struggling with the accent, the Australian accent? Would you like more videos breaking down the accent that some people have in Australia, the really strong Australian accent? What sort of content would you guys like more of on the podcast? And I should say, I have to keep drinking because I'm losing my voice. I should say I put up a recent episode, Walking with Pete's Story Time, where I'm going to try something different from time to time, where when I remember a funny story from when I was younger, I'm going to try and just record this and discuss it, and I guess give you something to laugh at. Hopefully, if they're funny, learn a bit more about me at the same time, and give me a chance to talk about different things in English so that you have access to new vocab, new expressions, that sort of stuff, as opposed to me talking about the same old stuff day in, day out. So Leonardo says that he's having trouble with slang that his workmates are teaching him. So what are they teaching you? Have a captain cook. Have a captain cook. See, even I don't know what that means. That they must, if I hear phrases like that, oh, we're just going to have a captain cook, that sounds like it's rhyming slang, so there should be something that rhymes with the word cook. Have a captain cook. It probably means have a look, I would imagine. Let's go have a look. Let's have a captain cook. But no one speaks like that, to be honest. The average person in Australia would not instantly know what you meant unless you explained it to them, and then they'd be like, oh, okay, he's making a joke. Rhyming slang. I think rhyming slang is something that was probably more popular when my parents were kids and when my grandparents were my age. So I don't know if it's sort of dropped off. It's become less common. But there are some that we know of, like dead horse instead of tomato sauce. We often use that, but it's kind of a bit tongue-in-cheek, like that, as in it's a joke. It's not meant to be serious. It's just, give me the dead sauce. No one would say that with a deadpan, straight face. It would be that they are making a joke. But yeah, I don't have any tissues, so I have to use toilet paper. Who knows some slang terms for this in Australian English? Who knows slang terms for this stuff? Have you ever heard anyone referring to this as anything other than toilet paper? And forgive me for wiping my nose in front of you guys. So there's a few different ways that we can call this. Obviously we can call it toilet paper. We could call it dunny roll, loo paper, dunny paper. So paper and any word for toilet. Dunny paper, toilet paper, loo paper. You could also call it shit tickets. That's a bit of an R-rated one or a rude one. shit tickets. So I had a girlfriend back in the day who, it would have been like 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember her saying, "You've run out of shit tickets." And I was there like, well, what? Like, Jesus. And yeah, it took a little while, but it dawned on me. I worked it out, and she was talking about toilet paper. So ticket is the word for something that you would use to go to an event, like, you know, a concert or the movies. You'd get a movie ticket, right? You buy a little piece of paper that says you can enter. And so Australians will use the slang term shit tickets. Sometimes they will, because you've got a ticket like that, okay? It's a bit gross, but it's a funny term nonetheless. So, what else have we got here? We'll look for something I struggle. So Rocio is saying fluency. She's having issues with that. Ramble on. Yeah, we all ramble on, rabbit on. Sometimes I feel that they're just making fun of me. Leandro, they probably are, to be honest. Oh, sorry, Leonardo, they probably are. But I think one thing to remember is that it's part of our culture in Australia to poke fun, to make jokes about people we like. I remember going to a gym in the city when I first started doing weights and jiu-jitsu. So I was fighting in the city, and there was a guy there, Lee, one of my dear friends now. He used to always make a lot of fun of me and be poking fun at me and saying, "You suck," or, you know, not even fun, just being mean. And I remember asking him, I'm like, "Do you guys actually like me, or are you just, you know, really nasty?" And his response is pretty much typical of why we do this, and it is that if we didn't like you, we wouldn't talk to you. So I think that is one really big piece of advice. As an Australian, I poke fun at everyone. It's just my personality as an Australian. It's part of our culture. We make fun of people. We make jokes. We like to make people laugh. We might point out jokes about you. They might be with you in the joke. But I think if it really comes down to it, you'll know they won't like you because they won't talk to you. They won't make jokes about you. They won't include you in jokes. So I would say that if they're making fun of you, it's that they do like you and they're trying to include you and just sort of, I guess, make you smile and make you laugh at the differences. So don't feel bad about that. I think you'll know when someone is being serious and being nasty. You know, you'll see that this is not, you know, I'm not in on this joke. So what else have I got here? Shit tickets, yeah, everyone got the shit tickets one, the shit tickets. Jesse, how can I use the word quite? Quite, I think this is kind of used to, off the top of my head, emphasize something. So you would usually, I think, put this before an adjective. So if I was explaining, say, my father's really tall, instead of saying really, I would say he's quite tall. So I feel like it's sort of like really. You can put it into sentences in the same position as where you would put the word really. He's really tall, he's quite tall, he's rather tall, but it's a step down from really tall. So he could be really fat, he could be really small, he could be quite fat, he could be quite small. So it's just it's an emphasis over just saying he is tall, he is fat. It's to say that he's a bit more than just, you know, you're stating the fact, but it's not as much as saying he's really tall, or which the step above that would be he's too tall, like too much. So it's kind of like too, really, and then quite and rather. He's quite tall, he's rather tall. So it's kind of like, it's kind of noticeable. He's quite tall. So that's how I would use that. I'm afraid to say something gross or incorrect to people. I guess to talk about that, guys, and again, I'm going to use these shit tickets. Sorry. I wouldn't worry too much with regards to using slang and using expressions that you're worried about not making sense or being used incorrectly. Use it as an excuse to laugh, right? So, for instance, anytime I speak with my girlfriend in Portuguese, I use stupid words all the time. And I'll do it intentionally sometimes so that she laughs and makes fun of me, and then we keep talking, right? So I feel like it's the same with learning slang. It's even the same with learning swear words in English. Obviously, you've got to pick your audience. You have to choose. Do I want to say it to this person? Do I want to say it to this person? But if you're around people that are your colleagues, your friends, and you know that you can talk to them and have fun, I wouldn't feel too bad about trying out new words that you might not 100% know how to use, or that you may think, is it okay to say this? So for instance, shit tickets. It's rude because we're using the word shit. It's not really rude in the sense that you are calling someone a name by saying someone's shit. So it's rude because you're saying a swear word. But if you're saying it around friends, it becomes sort of funny, okay? It becomes a bit humorous. If you know they've got a sense of humor, you can use that kind of terminology. So I would use that with a lot of these sorts of slang words and terms, and even non-rude things, just things you don't know how to use. You can always just ask. Just say, I would literally start a conversation with someone and be like, so I heard that the term shit tickets is used in Australia. How can I use that, and when would I use that? You can start up those kinds of conversations when it's in the right context. Probably not best to do that in a job interview, but if you're just hanging out with a friend who's Australian, they're not going to put your friendship in the loo and flush it just because you've said shit tickets. So don't worry about being embarrassed. I think look forward to those moments where you can laugh, where you make mistakes, and I would even go so far as to say try to make mistakes, especially funny ones. If you're not 100% sure, just do it, because it'll make people more relaxed and they'll be like, oh, this guy's funny, I don't mind. What's scooping it up? Scoop is this kind of motion or this kind of movement. So if you've got something here and you do this and then bring it up, you're scooping it up. So a scoop is something that you scoop with. So it would be like sort of a shovel with sides on it that you can do this action with and then pick up a big chunk of something. So I assume scooping it up, that would be like, I assume you've probably seen that on the Instagram photos from the park that I've put up where people say, scoop the poop. And I think that's for the dogs. You have to scoop it up. So you have to have something to pick it up and put it in the bin. Do you have rabbits in Australia and do you eat them? We do. We've got loads of rabbits. There are some places where you can eat them, but I've never eaten a rabbit before. I think I've probably seen them for sale once or twice. It's very rare. It's not very common, but they're everywhere. There are millions and millions of rabbits. They're a big pest species in Australia. Leonardo, again, are you an English teacher? Well, I guess I'm not a qualified English teacher, so I never went to university and got a degree in English teaching. I did science at university and got my degrees in science, but I just started doing this as a hobby, and then with questions from people like you and other people asking me to tutor them, I've slowly sort of developed my skills as a quote-unquote English teacher. So I guess my expertise is the fact that I can speak English, although I'm not a qualified English teacher. So do you do this because you just want to help people? Exactly, yeah. I just enjoy being able to make a difference and improve your lives and your ability to come to Australia and interact with other Australians. The story was that I originally started learning French and I listened to a podcast called Français Authentique that I'm sure a lot of you have heard me talk about. He does podcasts a lot like how I do them, at least the expression episodes and the Walking with Pete ones. I actually started that because he does a Marcher avec Johan, which is walking with Johan, and so I thought these are brilliant ideas. I had friends when I was learning French say to me, is there a podcast equivalent for people wanting to learn English, like Français Authentique? Is there a podcast equivalent for Australian English? And I went and I had a look, I got online, and I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything for these guys. I could find the standard stuff, like the British English stuff. Sorry guys. the British English stuff and like BBC English and IELTS tests, but they tend to be pretty dry and boring and a bit dull, like not really very interesting. And so I wanted to sort of bring the same kind of enthusiasm and passion that Johan had for me in French. And I think just to talk to you guys like humans, you know, like a lot of these podcasts, they seem to be very scripted. They read off a script. They don't talk to you like you're literally here sitting in front of me, a part of this conversation. And so I guess that's what I really wanted to bring to the English learning world. And so yeah, here we are 2 years later after doing it, and now it's my full-time job. I just do this. I have the Aussie English classroom. I have some students that I tutor locally or on Skype, and I also have the phrasal verb course. So yeah, if you guys want to support me to do more, you can do that. You can also sign up to be a patron, as a lot of you have. That always helps, but I'm slowly getting there. I can pay for my rent and my food just now, so that's good. But I guess to get onto it a bit, we'll see if you've got some more questions here, guys, before I start chatting to you. But I wanted to talk to you about the Aussie English classroom before we finish up later on today, but we've got plenty of time. So which slang word do you like the most, Raphael? I've done a video on this, my favourite slang word. This is on YouTube, and it is budgie smugglers. Budgie smugglers. So, I'm trying to think, I don't have any props. Got nothing I can really show you. I can probably do it with the tea towel that I've got here. In Australian English, we use budgie smugglers to mean bathers. Specifically, Speedos. So the ones that a man or a woman would wear on their lower part of their body that are sort of this shape. Male ones are called budgie smugglers. And it's because, sorry, there's coffee on this. It's because behind it you can see quite often this kind of thing happening, right, on male bathers. And so Australians make a joke about that, saying that you're smuggling, as in secretly taking something somewhere, a budgie, right? And a budgie is a type of bird. It's a small bird. I don't know why we started calling them budgie smugglers, but that's where that term comes from, as if someone's got a budgie stuffed in their underwear and they're trying to take it somewhere and smuggle it somewhere. So we call those things budgie smugglers. I just really like that. I think it's really funny. So that's my favourite Australian slang term. What's the chopper? So Ruchi wants to know what chopper is. I assume you're talking about Chopper Read, who was an infamous, I guess, drug lord, you would call him. Maybe not a drug lord, but he was a criminal, okay? So he was a criminal in the 1980s and 90s, I think. And he was quite infamous around Australia, around Melbourne, and I think Tasmania. And so this guy is infamous because he cut his ears off. He cut the tops of his ears off here with a razor blade. Here and here, he cut them off whilst in prison to get moved from one prison to another prison. And so I think that's why they called him Chopper, because he chopped his ears off. I'm not sure. There's a really good movie though with Eric Bana called Chopper that is sort of his story. I'm sure it's been a bit inflated a bit. It's sensationalized, but it's a really good movie with a lot of Australian English. So it's worth a look. It's worth a look. Can you say something in Spanish? Todo bien, amiga? I can say like little bits and pieces. I was learning, but I can't even do it anymore. En ese momento, yo estoy aprendiendo português. So at the moment I'm learning Portuguese. Eu estou aprendendo português do Brasil neste momento. I'm learning Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese at the moment. So I kind of stopped with Spanish because it was just confusing me too much. But yeah, at the moment I have a Brazilian girlfriend, and so I'm practicing with her quite a lot. How to use dark horse? Learn these words this week. So a dark horse is like, it's kind of like, I guess it's someone who you wouldn't suspect of being able to do something or achieve something. So like, if a group of you guys went out and there was this beautiful woman in a nightclub, and you had one mate with you who you could swear had no chance at, say, picking this woman up or talking to this woman successfully. And then you went to the toilet or you went outside and you come back in and you see them together. You could say, whoa, he was a dark horse. And I think that's the idea of he was just unsuspecting. You didn't expect he had it in him. You didn't think that could happen. He was a dark horse. So I'm not sure where that comes from, but that's how I would use it. Maybe you've got a dark coloured horse in a horse race and the assumption is that that horse won't do very well, but then it wins. So the idea is that it was unsuspected to do well and then it did well. Okay, so that's how I would use dark horse. Oh, he was a real dark horse. What else have we got here? Are you talking slowly for now? Your speech is quite easy to understand. See, James, I think that I do talk a little bit slowly, like I don't go overboard. I'm not trying to say too much at once, and I'm picking my words, and quite often I'm trying to repeat myself so that I use different vocab. So I think that's part of the reason that I'm easier to understand. I don't go ballistic. I don't go crazy with how quickly I speak, and I don't skip over things really quickly. Quite often, quite a lot of the time, I try and pick different ways of saying the same thing so that you get multiple times where you can try and understand what I'm saying, and you get to hear synonyms and different expressions that mean the same thing. So instead of just saying, "G'day guys, I've been sick today, what are you up to?" I might say, "G'day guys, how's it going? What are you up to?" And then I might say, "I'm feeling unwell, feeling a bit sick, I'm under the weather." So I try and explain myself a bit more and give you a bit more English to sort of listen to and practice. So, how else are you guys going? That guy was very crazy. Muy bien, Pete. De nada, amigo. How many languages do you speak? I'd say one. I'm only really confident saying that I speak English, to be honest. I can speak French, to a basic fluency point. Je peux parler un peu de français aussi. Yo posso falar português também. E yo puedo hablar solamente un poco de español. So I can speak probably 3 languages at different levels. Obviously English is here. If this was my English, I would say my French is here, my Portuguese is here, and my Spanish is here, if that gives you an idea. I also learnt Chinese at high school. So I learnt Chinese for about 3 years. That was really difficult. So I really, really, really respect Chinese people learning English. I know how difficult it is. The 2 languages are so different. But yeah, that's my story, I guess. I can speak French, Portuguese, and a tiny bit of Spanish. Portuguese is a beautiful language. What have you said, Chow? I'm just going to blow my nose. Sorry, guys. It's driving me nuts. So, hey Pete, any advice for studying order of adjectives? It's quite a bit confusing. See, this is one of those things. There are these rules with adjectives. The good news is that no one's ever going to get confused if you screw up the order, at least the majority of the time. Like if you say the big red car as opposed to, or the red big car, which is the incorrect version, people are still going to understand exactly what you're saying. It's just that it sounds weird because it's not common. That's the only reason that it's bizarre for people. So they're going to hear you say the red big car, and they'll know you said red and big, but you said it in the wrong order, and so they'll be like, ugh, but they understood. So I guess point 1 there is don't be too worried that people aren't going to understand you if you screw up the order of adjectives. They totally will. I would just practice pairs, mainly pairs, because that's the thing too. I think there's about 7 that you have to get in a certain order if you line them up, but no one would ever use 7 adjectives in front of a noun. That would be, that in and of itself, if you got that correct and you use 7, I would think you were weird for using that many adjectives. So I would say just practice the pairs, and you'll get this through reading. You're just going to keep seeing these patterns. The big red car, the cute little house, and you'll just get used to these patterns where this is how you always seem to see it. You know, it'll be like the size, and then it'll be something else, and you just get used to that pattern. So it'll happen subconsciously. You can also just say the house that is big and red and wooden, and you can just list the adjectives. That's a kind of a way of cheating. I would just say the thing that is. But yeah, don't get bogged down too much. Don't worry about getting it wrong. People will understand. Yep, I agree with the way that you said it. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. I guess the thing that I wanted to go over while I'm waiting for more questions here is the Aussie English podcast as a whole. I wanted to discuss that with you guys. I would love your feedback on which episodes you really like, which episodes you may not like, which ones do you listen to the most, what sort of episodes would you like me to do more of, or maybe I've never done a specific kind of episode that you would like me to do in the future. So do you have any suggestions for how I can improve the Aussie English podcast? Same with videos too, but it's coming to the end of the year and I want to assess how I'm doing things, how I'm teaching. I want to create content that's going to help you as best I can. So I'm always looking for feedback from you guys. What kinds of lessons do you like? Do you like the expression ones? Would you like me to talk more in other lessons about pronunciation, the history of Australia? Would you like me to do more interview episodes? Would you like me to break down interview episodes? Would you like me to do case studies where we study a certain accent? So that's the kind of stuff that I was hoping to chat to you guys about today and get your feedback and see what you thought of the podcast. Obviously, it's here to help you guys. So that's the most important thing for me, is to put my energy into creating the best thing possible to help you guys with your Australian English. And if you have any suggestions for how I can do that, you as students probably know better than I how I can best change the Aussie English podcast to better suit your needs, to better help you learn English. So feel free to put some suggestions down below. What else have we got? We've got a whole bunch here. Could you please pronounce some words with ch and sh? I like the interviews, being I love the Uluru video. That was a good one. Yeah. I like the ones about slang and Aussie culture. Yeah, all right. So I'll have to take some of that on board and try and do more of it and try and interview more people. I guess too, for all of you guys here right now who are in the Aussie English classroom, what are your views of how I've set the Aussie English classroom up? So for those of you who aren't, I can introduce what the Aussie English classroom is. Every time I release an expression episode on Sundays, you know the standard drill, you know the way that I do it. I introduce an expression. At the moment, I start with a joke. I then introduce the expression. I define the words used in the expression, give you some examples. I then go through the expression itself, maybe its origin, and then we have a listen and repeat exercise before we finish up with an Aussie fact. So that's the main thing for the content on Sundays in the expression episodes. But then when you sign up to the Aussie English classroom, you get access to all the bonus content. And this is where you have at the moment 5 different exercises. There's one for vocab that is designed to break down and get you to work on the vocab used in that expression episode. There's one on listening comprehension where I ask you a series of questions that you can answer as you listen to the episode so that you can practice your writing and practice your listening. I then go through phrasal verbs in every one with a substitution exercise. So you guys have to practice synonyms for phrasal verbs where you will hear a certain word used in a sentence and you have to switch in a phrasal verb for that word. Okay, so I'm always trying to be aware of that. We also have slang that I go over in these episodes, and I'll break down some Aussie slang, and then pronunciation and connected speech and grammar. So the basic idea is to give you guys a podcast episode that's free that you can listen to, but then for those of you who really want to go away and study and go through it step by step and practice all these different areas of English, that's the whole point of the Aussie English Classroom. It's to give you a bunch of different exercises. But recently, I've been trying to think about how I can improve this, make it more efficient, easier for you guys to use. So until now, I've had it so that you download the exercises onto your phone or onto your computer, but I'm thinking that I might add them on to the web page so that you can go straight there and read everything and listen to everything, and it's all there for you on the web page so that you don't have to download anything. I'm also thinking of having split the practicing pronunciation into one exercise where we go over a vowel sound or a consonant sound, and then also where we talk about in another exercise connected speech, rhythm and intonation. So that is one of the things that I'm hoping to change with the Aussie English Classroom in the coming month or two. I want to put it all on the website so you don't have to download anything and you can do it all there. And I'm wanting to split the pronunciation exercise into one thing and then also cover rhythm, connected speech and intonation in every single episode. So I'm trying to hit all these different areas so that your Aussie English improves like this and it sort of covers everything, okay? So that's the basic idea. As always, I'd love your feedback. So if you have any suggestions, I was also thinking that I might try the private Facebook group thing again just for members, and I could do, say, a live lesson like this once a week, or maybe more, we'll see how we go. But I could do live lessons like this where I just talk to you guys about specific problems that you've got, and we can cover that. So these are all these different ideas I've had floating around my head, but I would love your feedback. Listen back over this episode, rewind this, have a listen to what I've said and let me know what you think. But ultimately, the whole goal of mine here is to create content that you guys can use to understand Australian English and speak Australian English. I don't just want you to understand it. I want you to be able to talk like me, use the words that I use the expressions that I use. That is my goal. It's not just, here's some Australian English, enjoy listening. It's, here's some Australian English, enjoy listening, but also here are all these exercises that you can do to speak like me, to talk like me, to use the vocab I use just like I use, okay? So that's my passion, my mission, and that's what I'm going to be trying to turn the Aussie English Classroom into a stronger, better way of achieving that goal and helping you guys as best I can. And maybe we'll have things like writing challenges that we can go over in the Facebook group. We could have a monthly book that we could read that could be an Australian book. There's all sorts of possibilities, but give me your feedback. Let me know what you think, because at the end of the day, ultimately, I'm here to help you guys learn Aussie English. That's my passion and my goal. That's all I want to do for the rest of my days. I want to keep helping you guys assimilate, learn Australian English and succeed, okay? So what else have we got here? Ruchi loves the Australian facts. Nay loves pronunciation and would like to see more of that. I definitely want to do more of that in the podcast, Nay. Rocio loves the breakdowns and the pronunciation lessons. Chow wants more academic writing. We could definitely do that in the Facebook group, I think. We could potentially have like a task once a week or something where I could ask you to write a certain letter. We could correct one another's. I'd have to work out how to do that time management wise, because if we got too many students, it'd be too hard for me to correct every single essay. So these are all these ideas though. Ruchi's loving the live lessons. I would like to do that because I know you guys are always wanting someone to chat to and ask your questions one-on-one. How do you write a good resume? I know I need to do that. Liz loves the interviews. Suggestion, drink a glass of warm water and honey. I know. I've got warm water and honey, Lemon juice, here. The idea of the pronunciation tips. Okay, TH. TH sounds as a bitch. I know, it's a bitch, and that's a slang term, a way of saying that it is a pain in the butt. It's difficult. It is a bitch. So I can probably teach you that now, to be honest. So all you have to do, right, I'm going to get close to the camera. Nay, when you want to do the TH sound, you almost bite your tongue. You kind of just place it, okay? You place the tongue between your teeth, like that. And then you push air. So a way of practicing that sound is to place your tongue there and blow air through constantly. So instead of just going, try and keep it going. You need to practice that at home, doing that. Then the two different kinds of TH. That was the first one with no sound, apart from the s. The next one is where I'm making a noise with my throat. And I'm going, so there's those two. So it's like, they're the two different kinds of TH sounds in English. So I'm trying to think of some words, some examples. Obviously, the, these, those, that, this, all of those start with the vocalized one where I'm going and I'm using the and then saying the word. The, those, this, these. Then we have words like, I have to think for a sec, thistle, okay? Thistle. A thistle is like a piece of a plant that's spiky and it can stab into you when you're walking around. So you might get a spike in your foot. It's like a weed, a bad kind of plant. Those are thistles. Okay, so that's where I'm saying and then the word. There's no it's thistle. Thistle. In each of those cases too, when I want to say the vowel sound, the, I'm pulling the tongue back. Okay, does that make sense? So it starts between my teeth, it comes up and it goes or and then I pull it back. The, thistle, these. See how it's coming back and then I say the word. So I hope that helps. Go back and listen to this. I'll put it on the podcast and you can practice those TH sounds, but this is the kind of thing that I would like to put into the Aussie English classroom as well. This would be a new component under the pronunciation one where I could break down one specific sound every single week and aim to go through all the different sounds in English so that you're just constantly practicing these different sounds until you sound like me. So that'd be the basic idea, guys, the basic goal. Anyway, any other questions, guys? Anything else that I can help you with English-wise? Do you have any more feedback for me podcast-wise? Because again, I want to make this as good as possible to help you guys. Just chuck your questions or comments down below. Sorry, again, it's not a phrasal verb episode for anyone who's come on looking for that. I will take that up on Monday. Woo. Another, other, and others. Okay. I guess a way of thinking about that is that other is like, so you have one thing here and there is another one over here, and I've just used the word. So you've got two things. There's this one and there is the other one. So it's like the, it's one that is the same, but it's separate. At the moment it's separate. It's not here with this one. So, if there's multiple ones over here, there are multiple others, okay? So there's two others, there's three others, two other fingers. I've got one finger here, I've got two other fingers here, I've got two others, okay? If I just have one, I can say I have another, and we've just pushed that together into one word, another. I have one here and I have another here. or I have the other here, or I have two others here. So it just means sort of distinct, separate from, but the same, and kind of like an option. There's one here and there's another one here, or there are two other ones here. I hope that makes sense. So James wanted the same with that. Ruchi's asking, what is barge? So do you mean as in the verb to barge? We'll often use that to mean sort of like push. So if you barge in to someone, it is the idea of pushing into someone, to barge into someone. A barge, though, a barge is a boat used to transport things. It tends to be like a really flat boat that you put things on, and it goes, say, across a river. So you'll have, two sides of a river here. You'll have, say, cars on this side. You need to get to the other side, okay? You need to get it from one side to an other. So you take the barge across, you put the cars on the barge, and then the barge takes the cars over to the other side of the river. Okay, so that is a barge, the noun, and then to barge is to kind of like push into something. And I'm not sure if the name for a barge is something that would originally have pushed into something else, and so that's why we call it a barge. I'm not 100% sure, but yes. All right, guys. Well, if there are no other questions, I guess we can finish up here. Remember, guys, if you want to take your English to the next level, sign up to the Aussie English Classroom. It's on my website, theaussieenglishpodcast.com. There'll be links everywhere. I'm sure if you want to find it, you'll find it. If you're having trouble with phrasal verbs at the moment, sign up to the Effortless Phrasal Verb course. I will put a link in the description here, or it will be in the podcast episode or on YouTube. This course is designed to teach you to use phrasal verbs effortlessly without having to think. You just pick the verb, you know how to use the particle after the course when you've gone through it and you put them together. So that's the whole idea with this course. People are really loving it so far. I've only heard good things. I know you guys are going to love it if you're having trouble with phrasal verbs. So get in there, sign up now, and you'll save $13 from when the course is finished and I release it. Okay, so it's ongoing at the moment. Remember too, Thursdays and Mondays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Melbourne time in Australia is when I do these lessons. So if you want to come on, make sure you show up at 7 p.m. Melbourne time. We've had daylight savings come in, so it could be an hour different if you had it penciled in or penned in or timed into your phone or calendar at a different time previously. And if you want to support the podcast, guys, you can always do so via my Patreon page. So again, just go to theaussieenglishpodcast.com. There's support Aussie English in the menu, and if you want to donate anything from $1 to help me keep doing what I'm doing, it'd be much appreciated. So anyway, guys, thank you Ruchi for showing up. Thank you Liz. Thank you James, Reno, Anna Lucia, Chow, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to today's episode. I'm sorry for being sick, and I'm sorry for using shit tickets the whole time to wipe my nose. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you more about how the Aussie English Classroom is going to evolve in the future. So with that, guys, thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Peace out.